Good morning, Mayhem Makers. I am Mindy with Quilting Mayhem, and we're talking about the temperature quilt and how to do the foundation paper piecing for January, month one, what I'm calling block one. If you're following along with the layout and design that I'm doing, you will be needing the cupcake mixes. And then January will be block one. So for at least this month, you're going to need a minimum of 2 packages to get through the 31 days of blocks. If you want to plan for the entire first 3 months, because that's what we're using for all 3 months. So block 2 is going to be February and block 3 is going to be March. You'll need just over 4 packages, so 5 to be safe, just in case you have any errors or those kinds of things, or you change things up. Bare minimum 5, and we do have a few left in stock. We have more coming, so don't worry if you try to order them and we're out. There's more coming on their way, so you can always do a pre-order with us, and we'll call you as soon as they're in. They're fairly simple. If you've never foundation paper pieced, I'm going to walk you through it. It's nice and easy with using these papers. And I've picked a fairly simple designs just to keep it easy for those of you that maybe have never foundation paper pieced. So to start with, I'm just going to review the basics for you guys, just kind of a reminder in case you didn't see the other video or it was still maybe a little unclear. I'll just kind of give you the rundown. So I'm using my temperature chart using Konas. I will get you guys a list, those of you that have requested the list of the names of the Konas. I will get that for you. Forgot to bring my notes home, but I'll get it out to the group so that you have a list when you need to refill. And I do have more Konas coming because, of course, we ran out. You guys have been fabulous. Thank you so much for all of you participating. It's way more than I expected, so thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. What I then did is I cut my fabrics, I love this rainbow, it just makes me happy, into 5-inch squares. So I just have my little container, this is just in a little IKEA bin, and 5-inch squares, because that's what you need to do these blocks. And that way, all I do is I look at, say, yesterday's temperature, what the high and the low is, go to my chart, and I pull my squares. And for each day, you're going to need 2 squares of each color. So 2 squares of your high and 2 squares of your low, and to make each block is what you're going to need. So 2 sets of 5-inch squares, 2 sets of papers is what you're going to need for each day. Okay, so you just take your high and your low. If you're using a print, not a solid, make sure you're putting them right sides together. That will be important to know if you're not using just a plain solid or like a batik where it doesn't really matter. Make sure, just like quilting, you have your right sides together. Take your paper and lay it on top. Okay. So simple. You can pin it if you're worried about it shifting. I haven't had a lot of issues, so I'm lazy. I didn't pin, but you just lay it on top, line it up, take it to your lovely machine. Now, for those of you who haven't foundation paper pieced, the key to this is making sure you're going to reduce your stitch. Okay, so I normally run it about a 2.5 on my Bernina. I'm going to go and I'm going to reduce it down to about a 2. The benefit of this in the end is that the papers will be a lot easier to pull off because they're going to be tiny, tight stitches. So then those papers they'll come right off and you're not popping seams and all those kinds of things. So make sure you reduce that stitch length down. Like I said, I do about a 2 and usually don't have any problems. Okay, then all you do, what I love about this, we'll see if you can see it on my camera. Maybe not. It has a start and it has arrows. They couldn't make this any easier. This is why I love these, is you just start where it says start, stitch on that dashed line, not the solid line, but the dashed line. Follow those arrows and stitch all of them. And then that way, everything's together. What you'll end up doing is then cutting them apart, and you'll end up with all these little half square triangles that are connected to your paper. So you're going to cut on the solid lines. Now keep in mind, when you're cutting, there are some of these outer lines you're going to need to cut. So it's not just the diagonal through the middle and the diagonals through these. You're actually going to trim off these edges and a little bit on these edges. So trim all of those solid lines so that you get a nice, precise set of half square triangles. So you have big ones and little ones. They're super cute. What I did then is I went and tore my papers off. So pretty simple. I just fold on my line, give it a nice, I just use my fingers, run it down that seam. We're gonna just tear it right off. Okay, so I take all my papers off before I press. Sometimes with foundation piecing, I leave my papers, but for this project, I take them out because at this point they're not needed. They're just making nice, pretty half square triangles for you. So just take all this out now. That way you're not fighting it once it's in multiple seams later. Because if you've ever foundation paper pieced, you can have a lot of little tiny papers once you do a gazillion seams later. So for this project, take those papers out, make them clean and pretty, and then press them. So here's yesterday's temperatures. These make me happy. Look at this color combo. Isn't that cute? If you know me, you know I press open. That, I'm going to leave it personal preference for you guys. If you're a diehard, press to one side. As I say, always press to the dark side. There is no dark side really here, so pick a direction. Just go with it. Either pick that you're going to push all to the lights, all to the darks, or the warms and the cools. Just be consistent with it so that when you're putting your seams together, they'll nest up nice and pretty. But for me, I like them open. I just think they lay flatter. They're not quite as lumpy for me. And I don't really have issues. I don't have holes and those kinds of things down the road, which I know has been a concern for some people. So I just press open and away I go. What will then happen, I do go through, I take these guys, and my poor sewing room's now covered in little dog ears. So I do trim those. I take my scissors. We're just gonna have little dog ears everywhere. Usually I'm over my garbage can, but let's see. Ooh, a little hard to do it. I have a different setup for you guys, and I'm still getting used to it, obviously. Not quite coordinated to look all funny in front of my face and do this. So just chop all those dog ears off before you sew them together. It just makes it nice and clean in the end. And then what you're going to do is take two of these, make sure they're together like that, put them right sides together, match them up, sew 1/4 inch seam. It's always 1/4 inch seams once you're off the paper. On the papers, you're stitching on whatever the line is. That's the nice thing about foundation papers, just follow the line. Then you don't have to worry about whether your seam is 1/4, 1/8, 3/8, whatever it happens to be, just follow the lines. Once you're not following lines, 1/4 inch or scant 1/4 inch is generally how I go. But for these, a good 1/4, just don't be fat on your 1/4 inch or your blocks will be a little small. Okay, so you're gonna sew two of those together and then, forgot it on my pressing mat. What you're doing is making little quadrants like this. Aren't those cute? And then what will happen is it will go next to half squares, so that you end up with blocks like these. So that's what's nice. You have this block, and you're just making sure it looks like this on the package. You can always, I'm sure they've got tutorials on Moda. Moda's really good about all that kind of stuff. But my goal is that for January, what do I have? I have my lows on the bottom and my high on top. So this is my high temperature and my low temperature. You can do the opposite. It's up to you. Just be consistent. So that'll be the hardest part, is remembering, is it high on top? Is it low on bottom? However it is, just pick which way you want to go. Stay consistent. I do an Excel spreadsheet for my temperatures so that, say, I go maybe a couple days without doing it. I might go a week without doing it. I just go in my Excel spreadsheet, go to weather.com, track my temperatures for my city. So I go to Snohomish, track my temperatures. I know some of you out there are from all over, which is fabulous. I think that's awesome. I know one of my gals is like Arizona and needs temperatures up over the hundreds. We're lucky if we ever see 100. So please feel free. You can make your temperature chart fit your area. So if you get colder, if you're like Alaska and it gets in the negatives, expand your chart so that you have more variety. If you need help doing that, let me know. Reach out to me. I'll gladly help you get more temperature variety to fit your area. We're Washington. Our weather's kind of boring. We stick in a very low area of temperature. So that's kind of why my chart's a little less exciting. So if you need help getting more variety, let me know, and I'll gladly help you. But that's really how it's going to go. So at the end of the month, you're going to have 31 of these. We're going to lay them out as the January calendar for 2021, how it looks. And then I'm going to fill the empty spaces with a gray. I have decided on Kona's Metal Gray. That's what it's called. So you can either grab some metal like I am. You can pick a different gray. You can pick a black. I'm just not a black person. I'm not a fan of black. So I shy away from it. I rather do grays or creams or whites. But I decided gray was the option that I wanted. Maybe because it's Washington once again. Did you hear I'm in Washington? No. We're a little more dismal, so gray seems to fit us well. I will get you measurements, so if you're following our calendar quadrant, I will do some mathing and let you know what size rectangles, because instead of just cutting blank squares and putting blank squares together, which seems a little silly, I'll figure out like the quadrant. So if the space is 3 empty days at the top of the month, I will math that for you, so you can just do one full rectangle to fill that in. And I'll give you some more examples of really how that looks, because it may sound confusing at the moment. But once I get through this week, I'll be able to kind of show you how last week and this week will look together, because last week, of course, the first didn't start till Friday. So Monday through Thursday is really all going to be gray, because that was December. So it'll make more sense. I'll get you pictures. We'll kind of show you. Once we get through this month, it's going to make a lot more sense for you guys. If you're just not sure really what's going on, how it's going, definitely hold strong with us this month. It'll really start to click as we keep going along, and I'll try to keep getting you some pictures and those kinds of things, sharing, so you really can see how it starts to unfold. I am excited for this layout. I think it's going to add some fun and some interest versus last year's, where mine was just rows. So I just have 12 rows of temperatures, which I got my rows done. Yay! I just have to get them together. See, even I can't stay on top of things. So it's just how quilty life is. But otherwise, I think that's really covering everything. If you have questions, as always, just let me know. Reach out in the group, call me at the shop. You can email me, mindy@quiltingmayhem.com, any of those things. I'm here for you. I appreciate all of you joining in. I am excited for this group. It's definitely taken off, and I think it will be fun. I think it'll be super exciting to see everybody in your different areas, because all your blocks are going to be a little different because your temperature's different wherever you're at. Even if you're in the same state, your city's temperatures are different than our city's temperatures, so on and so forth. So everybody can be a little different. Like I said, some people have added different things to blocks to signify birthdays or events and those kinds of things. So get creative, feel free. You do not have to follow what I'm doing to a T. Absolutely, I don't recommend it. That can get kind of boring. Don't be exactly like me. Be you. Make it you. That's usually what I encourage. Kind of have fun, do a different twist, whatever makes you happy. I'll be here to support you for it. So I really appreciate all of you joining me. I'll keep doing this every month. So every month, this is what I'll do. I'll just go through each block, show you how it's going, and then of course show you how the previous month turned out, as long as I stay on top of it. Hopefully I will. You guys will keep me going, right? So thank you again. Have a happy Friday, and keep on stitching.